Hello guys, you're listening to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast, joined by your usual hosts Josh Hartley and Ben Porter. Ben, how are we doing?
I'm doing very well. We are joined this Independence Day by Owen Duffy.
Hey, how you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for coming in onto the show to join us. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the project you've been working on, but just very quickly for our listeners, what is it that you do, Owen?
Yeah, sure. So I write about board games, card games, anything you can play around a table with your friends for places including The Guardian, Tabletop Gaming, IGN, Ars Technica. So yeah, I have the opportunity to write about the hobby and the industry and all the cool stuff that's happening in it.
That is quite the CV, I have to say. The Guardian, Tabletop, and IGN. And so, how on earth did you get? How does one become a writer for The Guardian?
Well, I was working there already. I was doing some kind of behind-the-scenes journalism jobs there, and our tech editor at the time, Jemima Kish, had just decided that they were going to cover video games, and I sent her an email saying, hey, there's some really cool stuff happening in tabletop and board games, and she was really intrigued by it. She wasn't a kind of tabletop gamer herself, but we had a meeting. It was actually myself and Quinns from Shut Up and Sit Down. Just talked to her for a couple of hours, and she was really intrigued. She gave us a chance to do some stuff, and it kind of kicked off from there.
Excellent.
So you're currently a board games journalist, but presumably you didn't sit up one day and go, do you know what? I'm going to write about board games.
No.
Must be a bit of a history there. So how did you get involved in
well, I kind of got started as a kid. Somebody gave me a Warhammer metal goblin when I was about 9 or 10 years old, which I put in my back pocket and forgot about until I sat on it later that day.
And by the way, for those young uns who don't remember metal miniatures, that would have been excruciatingly painful.
Yeah, and I think they were lead back in the day, so I'm probably lucky to be alive at this point. So from there, I kind of got into the Warhammer thing, and then I graduated onto RPGs when I was in high school. Played a lot of Vampire the Masquerade because I hung out with the goth kids.
Yep, nice.
And then from there, I just discovered this whole board game, card game thing, and that's just the rabbit hole that I fell into.
And like with all of us, just keep falling down.
There is no bottom to the hole.
I'm getting a bit worried about this way you increasingly of late describing this as like an addiction.
Fairly accurate.
I mean, yeah. I think it's a fair comparison.
Well,
it's okay to admit it, Ben.
I know, but the problem is like it's not a great advert, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, there are times when the first thing I do in the morning is just log onto my computer and check Board Game Geek. It's it's a compulsion.
It's better than waking up and having a whiskey. If you're gonna be addicted to things, guys, tabletop gaming, probably like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably about a 5 in how destructive it is to your life.
That took a pretty dark turn.
Well, good job no one knows that I wake up drinking whiskey now. So
well they do
wait,
now.
Yeah. Next time on Josh's AA meeting. Anyway, so before we went all the way down there, so what have you been playing recently then?
Recently, there's a couple of games I've been enjoying. I really liked Crystal Clans from Plaid Hat Games. That's sort of a kind of spiritual successor to Summoner Wars, which is like it's kind of like elements of a collectible card game. You've got units that are kind of battling each other, but it also comes with a board. So you've got territory that you need to seize and control. You've got kind of goals that you need to achieve over the course of the game, and I found it really interesting. A lot of my friends who play Magic and kind of similar games have really enjoyed it as well. And then also recently I've been playing some of the Exit series of escape room games by Inkis and Mark Brand. I don't know if you guys have played those at all.
I haven't, no. I've seen them, and of course I've tried one of the actual real life escape rooms, so I imagine the premise is somewhat similar. You've got a bit of detective work to do to figure out a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the puzzles in these little boxes are really pretty ingenious. I mean, I was playing it with my wife. It's actually an interesting story. We went through to Edinburgh last week to play an escape room there, and one of the locks on the last puzzle broke. So we got through this room. It was a kind of abandoned asylum, and the very last puzzle, we were sure we had it right. We could not get this lock open, and eventually the guy came in and said, "Nah, it's broken."
Immersion destroyed.
Yeah, pretty anticlimactic. Yeah.
But to be fair, he gave us a free game next time we book in.
Oh, there we go.
We came back that evening. We played one of these exit games, and it was really pretty impressive how it kind of captures that sense of exploration and discovery, and the answer to one puzzle leading on to the next one.
And is it like a lot of the real life escape rooms? Is there a time pressure to this?
There is. There's not a kind of hard time limit, but you get a score at the end of the game based on how long it's taking you, and how there's a kind of clue system built in as well. So you can kind of take a clue at any point, but that will affect your score. So I thought it was really pretty impressive.
That's a really nice way of doing it as well.
This is the one I think has got sort of legacy elements too, isn't it?
Yeah, there's bits in the box, bits of the game that you'll kind of tear up or write on or things like that.
I was going to say that's some next level sadism. It's like, we're going to sell them a game and make them destroy it.
I love it.
I mean, you can play it once and then it's done, but the thing is they're about £12. So I mean, if you think about that in terms of an evening's entertainment, that's cheaper than two people going to the cinema.
Yep. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
And I think the point's been made about some of the big box legacy games as well, is that you're definitely going to play that game 12 times or whatever. Yeah,
this is a game you will play at least 12 times rather than have sat on a shelf languishing.
Well, you think about the amount of board games that even I've bought where I've played them once or twice and then I've sold them on at a loss.
Yeah.
So
I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
My local charity shop has done pretty well at me, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's a nice way of offloading the old games.
See, I've been selling mine on thinking like, right, I need to fund the next one. So at the moment, the stuff's been getting sold on because Age of Sigmar 2nd edition's just been announced. And it's like I'm going to have no willpower when that comes out, and I'm going to have to buy all the stuff. So that money has to come from somewhere.
See, I've been off the Warhammer train for a little while now.
I've been off the Warhammer.
15 years clean and sober.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when this new edition's coming out, I take it all the existing minis are still going to be usable.
Yeah, that's something they've been doing with all the Age of Sigmar stuff, that at least for a time your sort of legacy models are still viable.
We're waiting on a lot more detail about the second edition, which we're hoping they reveal some at UK Games Expo.
They've been teasing some of the rules changes, and it's not going to be like a big 40k 8th edition style overhaul. It's going to be little tweaks and quality of life improvements, so they're toning down magic a little bit. And I don't think I said this to you. They're doubling the range of unbinding.
All right.
Because it used to be
that makes sense.
It used to be to unbind spells, you had to be within 18 inches of the caster, and the range of all the spells in the game is 18 inches.
Right.
So you had to be in the firing line to try and dispel it. Whereas now you can dispel if you're within 30 inches of the caster.
Yeah, again, that makes sense. That sounds like a good change. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some more details about that at UK Games Expo. Which, Owen, are you popping down to Birmingham?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm looking forward to it. There's a kind of couple of things I'm interested to see. I'm going to be talking to Martin Wallace about Wildlands, which is his new miniatures game. I've really enjoyed a couple of games from Martin over the past couple of years, so I'm kind of keen to see what he does with this take on kind of mini battle games. I'm also really interested. I think I'm right in saying that Ignacy Cevicek from Portal Games is going to be showing off Detective there, which is his new kind of mystery game that has a lot of kind of online and electronic elements.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's similar sort of vein to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
I think so, yeah.
Because this is the one I think they're advertising it with the tagline, "You are the detective,"
right?
Aren't they?
Yeah. And yeah, apparently there's going to be elements that you have to go online to find information, and it sounds really quite immersive. So
Yeah.
I'm keen to see what he does with it.
That's really cool. I love the sort of the tabletop space and the digital space starting to bleed into each other. One of the things I'm looking forward to is Wizama's tabletop console. We'll talk more about this on our podcast episode where we preview UK Games Expo. But just the idea of, trying to combine video games and, the physical element of tabletop games.
I think it's going to happen more and more until I think very often the two will be indistinguishable from one another.
I don't know about that. I think there's certainly at least an element of the community that really relishes having the analog experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's always going to be a big part of the hobby's appeal.
Oh no, I don't think it's going to be like the two will combine to the point that neither one nor the other exists separately from one another. But I think you're going to see a lot more crossover, and there's going to be a lot more games where there'll be a bit of debate of, is it a video game or is it a tabletop game?
Yeah,
and it's
it's
both. And we're starting to see that with a lot of the Age of Sigmar Champions.
Yes,
card game.
Very thin on details at the moment. I think
we did see a video where you scan the cards in, and it's like along the lines of Toys to Life, although it's Cards to Life this time. What it does also mean that, unlike a lot of the other online companion apps for these card games, where essentially your online collection and your physical collection are different, every card you own you can scan and you can play with online. And then you see like the guys like hopping up out of the cards.
That sounds really cool. So it's like an AR.
Yeah. But again, is it a video game? Is it a card game? It's both.
Yeah. So that's some of the things that you're looking forward to.
And also, I mean, people fixate on the actual games that are going to be there, but I think just as a sort of social event as well. There are folks that I get to see at Expo that I don't see the rest of the year, folks that used to be in my game group and have moved away. And it's great just kind of wandering the halls and just running into people and kind of seeing what they're enthusiastic about.
It's the equivalent of a festival for the hobby,
I was just thinking exactly the same thing. It feels like a music festival, but for nerds who like tabletop gaming.
Yeah, because I mean, even like the amount of people that, when we've been mentioning, we're going to Expo, the amount of people that's been like, oh, should meet up and have a drink, It's, a lot of people are just excited to meet like-minded people, not even necessarily having to play games with them, which is really cool.
I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most, is just the whole buzz about the place as well. We've been to conventions, but this is our first time at UK Games Expo, and it sounds massive.
Yeah, I mean, it's really grown over the years. The kind of first time I went a couple of years ago, it was still based at the Hilton down in Birmingham, and they've since moved on kind of next door to the NEC, the massive big arena or convention hall.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, if you look at kind of some of the big conventions in Germany or in the US, it's great to have a UK event that's at least kind of on the same sort of playing field as that.
I mean, I've never been to this event, but I've been to the venue, and the
NEC's huge.
It feels like you're walking through an airport.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. So looking forward to seeing that full of games and people enjoying them.
But we've talked a little bit about Expo, some of the stuff you're excited about, but on a day-to-day basis, what's the application of your role as a tabletop gaming journalist?
As in, like, what does a gaming day look like for me? It all has to fit around various things, including my day job and my kids. But usually I will play kind of 2 or 3 games in a session. Well, I guess the kind of first step is a kind of triage. So I will look at games that are on a weekly release sheet from distributors. I'll pick out the ones that look interesting. They'll tend to send them out to me. I'll look at them. Sometimes I'll look at them kind of in, I look at them when I've got the physical objects and I think, no, actually this isn't really right for my audiences. And then the ones that do make it to the table, there are some that just get kind of played once and, again, just aren't really what I'm looking for or what editors are looking for. And then there are ones that merit some more plays, and then I'll usually take some notes while I'm playing. A big part of kind of my approach is to just actively talk to the people that I'm playing with, because it can be really valuable. You know, everyone's got their own perspectives and their own expectations when they come to a game. So if something's really working for me, but not for the person across the table, it's really good to kind of get their get their reasoning, their thoughts behind that, and just try and give an idea of, even if a game isn't for me, is there someone out there who it could be for, and kind of dig into why that's the case, what works, what doesn't, kind of where the influences and the ideas are coming from and coming together.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, actually, because gaming, and particularly tabletop gaming, unlike an awful lot of media, you can go to the cinema with a friend. You can love the film, your friend can hate the film, and your experiences are not going to be influenced an awful lot by each other. I've tried playing games that I love with someone who clearly is not into it at all, and that changes my experience of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really where games have this kind of social dynamic that other forms of entertainment really don't. I mean, even if you think about sitting watching something on Netflix with your with your family, with your partner or whatever, you might decide to switch it off because one of you's not enjoying it, but it doesn't impact your interpretation of it. So yeah, I completely see what you're getting at there.
So you were saying just there about deciding which games to discuss in your articles, your reviews, whatever, and which you maybe take a pass on. How do you go about deciding what works for your audience?
Different outlets that I write for have different audiences. So The Guardian tends to be a little more kind of family, casual oriented. Although I've had some good responses in the comment threads to some slightly more complex stuff. Somewhere like Tabletop Gaming, obviously the readership there is very informed, very knowledgeable. You don't need to kind of explain quite so much. You know, you can assume that people have a level of knowledge of what deck building means or what worker placement means.
Sure.
Ars Technica is somewhere where, again, you've got a really intelligent audience, but they've got a kind of editorial slant towards more kind of sci-fi or kind of tech themed stuff, just because that's their their wheelhouse.
More thematic.
I mean, stuff like what do you call it? New Angeles, I wrote up for them. I think that's kind of the kind of thing that interests their audience. That being said, I mean, they've got a healthy respect for a lot of Eurogame designers as well. And there's a really great editorial team there who are just kind of really big time game geeks themselves. So.
Good stuff. I mean, and while you've been going through the process of, right, I'm going to review this game for this publication, etc., has there been one that's ever really took you by surprise? You picked it up, you think, I don't know about this one, and then you've tried it and it's turned your expectation around?
I mean, not so much in terms of the quality of the game, but I was kind of surprised to get an RPG called Monster Hearts by Avery Alder into The Guardian, and it actually ended up running on under their books section rather than the usual kind of games column.
Oh, right, okay,
But just this really clever set of ideas for storytelling and representing characters. It was great being able to put that across to an audience that might not otherwise have encountered it, you know?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of books, you've been working on one of
smooth segue.
There we go.
Look at that. That's a solid 8 out of 10.
8? Only 8? Okay.
Look,
You're hard to impress, aren't you?
8. Hey, 8 would be a first class degree.
Okay, I'll take it.
There we are.
Anyway, you're working on a book of your own.
I am, yeah. I'm working on the board game book, which I hope will be the first instalment of an annual series. I'm working on it with some great co-authors. There's Matt Thrower, who you might know from places like Shut Up and Sit Down, and from IGN and his own blog, There Will Be Games. I'm working with Terry Latorco from Geek and Sundry, and with Richard Jansen Parks, who is a really great RPG writer. He also writes his own kind of RPG adventures and publishes them under his own company. So what we're working on is essentially like a kind of annual for the hobby. I kind of think of it as a cross between kind of like the Good Beer Guide and the Doctor Who Annual. But I don't say that to people because it makes me sound about a million years old.
So it sounds fun.
Yeah.
I wonder, see that Venn diagram of people who read the Good Beer Guide and people who read
That's a
the
circle.
Doctor Who
Yeah, yeah.
album. Yeah.
But in terms of what's going into it, we're going to have a kind of critical look at what we reckon are the best games of the year in different categories. We're going to have round about 100 games that we feature. We're going to have a chapter dedicated to kind of gateway games for newer players.
That's good.
Yeah.
We're looking to interview the designers of every game that we feature from the course of the year, and we've already got some great designers lined up. And then finally, we're doing some really kind of extensive studio photography of all the games. So it's kind of like a cross between, you've got this kind of informative content, but it's also going to be a really nice kind of hardback coffee table book, if that's what people are looking for.
So you mentioned a number of writers there. Was there a bit of debate as to what was getting featured?
Not within the team so much, and the thing that, you know, I should stress is that we're still kind of working on what the final lineup of games is going to be.
Okay.
This is going to be running, the kind of process to make this book is going to run until October. The kind of window is from kind of Essenspiel last year to Essenspiel this year.
Yeah.
And because there's going to be games coming out right over the course of the year, we don't want to close it off and say, right, this is it. You know, anything after this point we're not going to consider. That seems a bit arbitrary and unfair and just generally a bit crap. So we're going to be working right up to the deadline. You know, we've all got games that we've really enjoyed so far this year, but there's definitely going to be more stuff going in there. And the process of interviewing some of these designers is just fascinating. It's some of my favorite stuff to do is just kind of discussing how these games came to be, what the influences behind them are, and that can just be that kind of behind the scenes look. It's almost like if you imagine watching your favorite movie with the director's commentary.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's,
Except the director sat with you,
Yeah.
and like actually talking you through
I
it.
have watched The Lord of the Rings with the director's cut and all the behind the scenes stuff. It took a long time.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But I love me a bonus feature.
Yeah.
So that's right up my street.
It's excellent. So when are we expecting this to go to print then?
Right. Well, there's a couple of stages. We're going to Kickstarter first. That's going to be next month, and I hope all your listeners will get enthusiastic and back it and tell all of their friends.
We shall remind them all.
Fantastic, thank you. And then we're looking at cut-off for kind of the writing, the interviewing, the photography. Our deadline is towards the end of October, and then if at all possible, we want it to be out for Christmas because we would love to get it into retail. We're putting a delivery date on the Kickstarter of February to give us that little bit of leeway, just because you never know what's going to pop up.
Sure.
But we're going to be working flat out to try and get it out in time for December 25th. So if you have a gamer in your life that you do not know what to buy for,
there we go.
Get on the Kickstarter. Get organised. You don't need to wait till December to do your Christmas shopping.
Yeah. You know those smug people that, like, at the last minute, you're running around trying desperately to get, like, a gift for your Auntie Mabel.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, are you still shopping? I finished all mine in July.
Yeah. Now you can be
one.
one.
To be that
Yeah,
person.
you can be
one of
that
them.
person.
Yeah.
And every member of your family will get a copy of the board game book.
That's it.
There we go. Yeah.
Go into Kickstarter and back for 10 of them.
There we are.
Christmas is sorted.
It's funny actually because when you were describing like the premise of the book, the first thought that went into my mind was, oh, it's kind of like just from a big kid point of view. Oh, it'd be like getting the Beano annual at Christmas. So I'd love to have that feeling of opening the board game
an Ur Willie book if you're up in Scotland.
I don't know what that is.
Get out.
God.
You disgust me.
I think
I'm joking, guys. I know.
We need to take a break and actually educate him at this point.
It's all right. I know.
He sits on a bucket. It's funny.
Yeah. Reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's from Dundee, which is hilarious.
His grandpa as well does something old and dothery, and
yeah. I'll laugh a minute.
There we go.
But it's interesting. It's interesting. I actually made the comparison to things like kind of comic book annuals and TV show annuals to some folks that I was talking to in the States, and it turns out they've got no equivalent of that over there.
What, like an annual?
No, they've got
I
like,
find that really sad.
Yeah, that's like what is Christmas if you don't have a couple of annuals?
I suppose the closest thing they'd have is like the dirty calendars.
Yeah, that's not the Pirelli calendars.
Yeah.
I'd just like to point out that is not what we're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you should. Stretch goal.
Stretch goal. Game has gone wild.
I think that would violate some terms and conditions, to be honest with you.
Would you pose for that, Josh?
Tasteful black and white.
Yeah, I was gonna say for the right photographer. I don't know. Like,
It's definitely going to be family friendly.
yes.
That is not a thing, by the way. Don't go expecting Gamers Gone Wild calendars. Not from Owen, anyway. Maybe we'll look at that. Right. Okay.
I was thinking, do I say to listeners, if you're wanting naked photos of me, it's not going to happen. Just never. No.
What about like a Calendar Girls type effort with like tactically placed board games? You know,
Like a Jenga tower. I don't know. Like,
would you need a full Jenga tower?
how dare you? Jenga brick.
I was not expecting to walk into this conversation.
No,
I've
this
got to say.
There you go. Yeah.
This went in a whole new different direction.
Yeah.
But no, so hopefully then we can all be expecting nice hardback copies of your book for our Christmas presents.
Are you able to tell us any of the games that are being featured at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, we've written some of them up, and we're going to be doing a PDF preview to go with the Kickstarter campaign. So Crystal Clans is in there because I played it recently and loved it. I'm trying to think what else I've done now. What else? You can edit this long.
Yeah,
But
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, we're going to leave it in.
You're gonna. This is because I beat you guys at Chaos and
Yeah,
Hope.
Yeah.
This is how we get revenge.
I've only spent the last 2 months writing this stuff non-stop. My brain is frazzled. So Crystal Clans is going to be in there.
Fog of Love.
Yeah, Fog of Love, definitely. Just one of my favourite games that I've played recently. We also have already done an interview with Jacob Jaskov, who's the designer there, and he's just a really kind of fascinating, interesting guy to talk to. We've got Nikki Valens, her game Legacy of Dragonholt. Again, that's a really kind of interesting story-driven game. It's a kind of fantasy, adventure, mystery, kind of choose-your-own-adventure style game. But it almost feels like playing D&D with the book as the GM.
It's like an RPG in a box.
Yeah. It feels.
It was
like
one
that.
I wanted to try but never got a chance to. Inevitable with the amount of games being released now.
Yeah.
It's crazy actually just looking at a release schedule for book. Like I dare say comparing this year to 5 years, 10 years ago, the amount of games that are coming out is just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. One guy from Asmodee recently estimated about 3,000 releases over the course of the year, which is just incredible. I mean, you've got to think there's only so long that kind of pace of releases can be sustained.
Do you think we're getting to a plateau?
I think there's going to be no shortage of people coming forward with new ideas. I think if there's anything that's going to kill the board game boom, it will be too many people coming forward with kind of lackluster or mediocre ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what happened to video games in the 80s,
Yep.
there was a point where, because of the amount of just low quality content that was just being shoveled out, it literally threatened to kill the video game industry, which is now the biggest entertainment industry in the world.
Well, this is why Nintendo thrived, because they were one of the few. Correct me if I'm wrong, actually. I think they were the first company to have a proper seal of approval on all of their cartridges. We have tested this. This is not E.T. the game. You're not going to fall in a pit at level 1 and never finish it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the good thing about tabletop at the minute is, to the best of my knowledge, there is no one deliberately making bad games. You know, there's nobody making kind of generic Kart Racer 44 and just trying to just get it out the door and sell it to unsuspecting parents who don't know any better. the whole industry is driven by such creativity and enthusiasm and passion. So I certainly hope it's going to be resilient to kind of any kind of dilution.
I think the other thing as well that's going to help with that is the community is very much involved. And when you have a strong voice in the community, when companies or designers that are doing that sort of thing come to light, it's going to get shut down pretty quickly, I think. We will certainly shout and scream about anything that's utterly terrible.
I think one of the first sort of bumps in the road for the industry has been the whole Kickstarter debacle. But the good thing is people are talking about it. And I suppose the thing that you had back in the 80s, you didn't have the worldwide forum that is the internet. And for all people do like to complain about it, the great thing about it is that people are more informed than they ever were.
Yeah.
And that if utter dross that's packaged in such a way where an unsuspecting parent might be taken in by it does appear, you're going to hear about it pretty quickly.
I mean, to be fair about Kickstarter as well, the actual ratio of projects that don't complete or that there's some sort of screwy behaviour on is really pretty low. I mean, if you think about how open that platform is, anyone can go and start a project there. You can debate the merits of individual games, but there's very few kind of cases where people have been kind of conned or misled egregiously.
No, that's true, and I think that just human nature, sort of distorts the ones that do come. I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the
Space Goat was the recent one that a lot of people were talking about, and where there was some really shady stuff going on. But I think you're right that those cases are few and far between, and the good thing is that when they do appear, they're talked about immediately. But I was talking to Mark recently actually, and he says that he's noticed this trend towards people having a game up on Kickstarter, and then if it doesn't perform as well as they'd hoped within the first week, they actually cancel it, and that's been happening with increased frequency. So I
suppose that's better than people losing their money, though, right? If you take the game down before the project completes, then it doesn't fund, and they don't get the money, so people don't lose out. It's much worse if you get to, the big one that I was thinking of was BattleTech, Robotech RPG, which just sounded like a complete a sorry story for everyone involved, like backers, the creators.
Well, we were saying, I think it got so bad actually that one of the lead creatives on it, I think, tried to kill himself because the backlash from the whole thing and the stress and the pressure was so immense. I mean, it's you don't wish that on anyone.
No.
But the good thing is, as you say, and as we've already said, those instances are few and far between. It's, for all tabletop games have been around for a very long time, the industry as we know it, I think, is still very much in its infancy.
Yeah.
Like you say, that's a great comparison about the 80s. Like, we're pretty much in the 80s for tabletop gaming just now.
Yeah, it's definitely at a sort of stage where it certainly has a lot of potential. Big as it seems just now, I think there is a bigger audience for these games to reach. I mean, that's part of what I'm hoping to do with the book. I would love for people to, because I mean, the kind of example that I give to people is, I was in Waterstones, the bookshop in Glasgow, and they have a bigger board game section in there than some game stores that I've visited.
It's true. Yeah.
There are people who are getting their first exposure to the hobby, who are discovering these games, and I would love to have a kind of guide sitting right next to it on the shelf that can just kind of guide people towards the good stuff, the best that the hobby has to offer, and hopefully keep them in it and kind of deepen their involvement with it, and just kind of allow them to really fall in love with these games the same way that
we all have.
Yeah.
And I suppose to that end as well, that's where the Gateway game chapter is so vital, and I'm actually really pleased to hear that that's been included.
Yeah. Well, I think in games media there can be a tendency to focus on people who are already quite heavily invested in the hobby, which is great because you can have these in-depth discussions with people who are really kind of passionate and involved in, in gaming. But at the same time, I think it's important not to neglect the fact that there are a lot of people out there who don't know as much as someone who's been playing these games for 5, 10, 15 years, but have that enthusiasm and have that, that real attraction to the stories that these games can tell, the social interaction they can foster, and just the sheer multitude of different feelings that you can get when you're playing these games. The kind of brain-burning Euros, or the frantic dice-chucking family games, or the really strategic kind of CCGs, or whatever it may be. It's just great to have an opportunity to just bring people into this world and sort of just try and foster the same love of it that we've all developed.
Exactly. Yeah.
If that doesn't sell the book, I don't know what will.
Well, we hope it's a big success on Kickstarter. Do you have a set date then?
Yeah, it's going to launch on the 5th of June.
5th of June.
I should probably also mention the website and all the socials. So we are at boardgame-book.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. If you search those platforms for the Board Game Book, we should come up.
Excellent. And we'll... don't worry, we will be banging on about it when the Kickstarter launches. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, guys.
Look, I think on that note, I think that's all we've got about time for. So, Owen, thank you once again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And guys, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, it's Charlotte from the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Now be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. All you need to do is search Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support for the Unlucky Frog through Patreon. To find out more information, check out our website, www.unluckyfrog.com. Thanks, bye!